Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of my Meathead Monday Tips. Today we're talking about squat warm-up, squat preparation. So we're going to try and, anytime we do a warm-up, we're going to go over 6 key areas. We're going to work on mobility for the ankles, the hips, thoracic spine, and doing some sort of activation or stimulation for our trunk muscles, our hip and glute muscles, and our lats and upper back. So we're going to specifically do this for the warm-up for the squats. The first thing I like to do before every workout, and truthfully this is something I could do a better job of, but I've been trying to do better as I get closer to my personal competition, doing some sort of breathing. And when I do the breathing, I'd like to do some sort of like mental imagery and things like that. And I like to think about the positions I'm going to be. I like to visualize my setup, the execution of the lift, and the success during the lift. So as you're kind of doing some breaths, it's a good way to kind of get your core muscles going, but also it's a good way to kind of reset your mind and make sure you're focused for the day. One of the biggest things, the issues that we see is that the athlete is also not mentally ready for the workout. So you could be physically prepared, you can do this great warm-up, but if your mind is somewhere else, it doesn't matter. So part of good preparation for a workout is mental preparation. So we're going to do some 90-90 breathing. Now I'm just going to, obviously I wouldn't normally talk, so you could do this on the floor, you can put your feet up on the wall. We have these Bulgarian pads here, which is like a good height. So I like to just kind of get a 90-90 position, which is about a parallel squat. And the reason that we get in this 90-90 position is to keep the spine neutral, the head relaxed, everything is kind of supported here. If I was doing this post-workout, I would do a little bit more of kind of like a PRI type style where I kind of tuck the pelvis, I reach and round. For right now, I'm using this as a warm-up, so I wanted to use a more stimulative type breath, and it's going to be more of an aggressive breathing and brace. So if you're using it as a cool down versus a warm-up, your execution is, I would advise, to be a little bit different. So as I'm going through a couple of breaths, I'm just gonna breathe in through my nose and out to my mouth. Again, if I was doing this cool down, I might only do nasal breathing to kind of make myself more parasympathetic. But right now I'm trying to kind of focus and rev myself up for the workout. So as I'm going through a couple of breaths, I like to put you can put one hand on your chest, one on your stomach, or you could put your thumbs in your obliques. You just want to make sure that your belly is rising and falling and your obliques are expanding out on the sides and you're pushing your lower back into the floor. As you go through a couple of breaths, I want you to visualize where you're going to set up your feet in the squat. Visualize yourself unracking the weight, going down into the hole, reversing the weight, and coming up with the weight. And we're going to have more videos and visualizations, so I'm just kind of going through this quickly, but obviously you'd go through at a slower pace. So we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose, hold and brace, exhale fully, let the belly drop, and do that a couple of times. So usually I like to do like 3 to 5 reps, so just enough to activate but not get yourself too tired. Brace hard. So I'm practicing the skills I'm going to be using for the workout today. Imagining myself, I'm pushing into the belt. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to just do some soft tissue work. We can do this against a power rack. I'm just going to go against the wall today. One thing that's really important, a lot of people miss, even if it's just a lower body only workout, is that you also want to warm up the upper body. A lot of times, especially for bigger guys, the shoulders, the pecs, the elbows get really beat up, so it's really important that we don't only just warm up the lower body for a squat day, but also the upper body as well. So I'm going to kind of attack the pecs here. If I want to go a little internally rotated, I can just open up and stretch the pec a little bit. I can also work on my squat position. And if I was against like a wall or a power rack, I could also do that. So like we could go through like a wall like here. Power rack works out well too. And I can go through the positions that I'm going to be in for squatting. Typically with the soft tissue work, we could do about 1 to 2 minutes per side. I'm not going to go too crazy on my pecs today, just for the sake of the video, but that's just a good general tool there. Then I'm going to use the foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, you can still use the ball for this. Typically problem areas, if people have knee pain, hip tightness, you want to get above and below the joint. So typically you can do your calves. My calves usually are not a problem, so I'm just going to work on my quads and the muscles of like where the IT band runs, so like the tensor fasciae lata and kind of like the abductor type muscles in there. So we're going to go on the floor. When we do the soft tissue work, you could just roll, you could tack and stretch, or you could just do like just a hold. So what I like to do is find a hot spot, tack and stretch, flex and extend the knee, and just kind of work up and down that way. Again, I like to do between 3 to 5 reps in each position. If you're tighter, you could spend more time on it. Again, like 1 to 2 minutes per side. Still getting good diaphragmatic breath. And then I can go into the front of the leg. Hot spot, flex, extend, and I can also internally and externally rotate the hip. So I typically have a little bit more knee pain and knee caving on this side, so this side was a lot tighter. I'm not going to spend as much time on this leg. I can also do my upper back and my lats. I'm going to give myself a hug so I can open up my shoulder blades a little bit. I can also work on pinning my ribs down and extending so I can get some upper back extension here. Trying not to make sure I go into my lower back and just extend over my upper back only. It's shorter of a range of motion than you think you need. My back feels pretty good, so I'm going to move on to my lat a little bit. I like to rotate a little bit, so I'm kind of getting deep into that armpit area. It tends to get very tight. So here I feel a little bit of a hot spot. This is the shoulder I'm kind of having issues with, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time here. So I can roll, and then I can attack and stretch. So I want to work on external rotation because I'm squatting today. So I'm externally rotating my shoulder. Okay, so next drill, we're going to work on some hip mobility and some ankle mobility at the same time. This is a lunge series that we like to do exactly on strength. Since we're squatting, we want to have a stable rib cage and pelvis. We want our rib cage stacked over our pelvis. So we're going to get a 90-90 position. I could use the foam roller for balance if I'd like. I don't need to. But right here, I'm in an anterior tilt. So now I'm going to stack. I'm going to squeeze my glutes and extend, try and extend. So I'm feeling a little bit of a stretch here. If I wanted to extend or make the stretch a little bit harder, I can also add a band as well, which will show that variation. So it's kind of distracting the hip a little bit. This height is not perfect. Ideally, I'd like it to be hip height, but this is kind of like the height we have at the gym. So the band's kind of pulling my hip forward into more extension. So if you have trouble standing up on a squat or just that lockout part, this could also be effective for a conventional deadlifter. So just so I'm even, I'm going to do this side too. Squeezing my butt and getting tall through here. So I kind of strained this hip a little bit a couple weeks ago, so I'm feeling a little bit of tightness through here, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this side. So a lot of this is like, again, you write your workouts in pencil, not pen, especially your warm-ups, you kind of adjust on the fly as needed. So now we're going to go through the rest of the series. So you could use the foam roller or not. I'm not going to use the foam roller, but if I wanted to make it a little bit easier, this is going to make it less range of motion. I want to make it a little bit harder. You can do it without the roller. Fingertips to the ground. If you want to get your palms to the ground, that'd be more of an advanced. I want to try to get my squat position. So if I'm more of an angled tibia squatter, I'm going to let my knee come forward more. If I'm more of a vertical shin squatter, I don't need as much ankle range of motion. But we're going to do ankle rocks here. I want my big toe, little toe, and heel in contact with the ground. We're going to drive the knee forward and back. Now for me, I'm squatting in equipment right now. So this is probably more than I need. But for raw squatting, this would be very good. So as an equipped lifter, I might have more vertical shin, and I might focus more on just stretching the hip and then driving my knee out. I could also lengthen this back leg and do the same thing. But those ankle rocks are very important. We don't want the heel coming off the ground for ankle mobility, especially if you're a raw squatter or if you're in a federation that requires a lot more depth. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Big toe, little toe, and heel. Notice I'm not collapsing my foot. Even pressure through the midfoot. So your ankle is going to want to collapse. You don't want to do that. I recommend doing these without your shoes on so you can really see the true range of motion at the joint. If you do that with your heeled shoes, it's going to give you like a false sense of your mobility. And for the equipped lifters that don't need as much, you could spend a little bit more time prepping the groin here. So that's our hip series. So like I mentioned before, we also want to prep the upper body. A lot of lifters, especially bigger guys, have trouble with shoulder flexion and shoulder external rotations. This drill is going to help kind of work that range of motion at the shoulder. I got this drill from Dr. John Russin, and it's really helped keep my shoulders relatively healthy, but it's been a great warm-up, and my shoulders definitely have been feeling better since implementing it. So we want to have some tension on the band. I like to have make a little, I guess, dog ears, whatever you want to. I like to have visuals, so just a little bit of tension here with the mini band. But it shouldn't be crazy tension, just a little bit. So I like to kind of start off with like a mini pull apart. I'm going to start with my shoulders depressed, so it's like an anti-shrug. As I flex my shoulders, you can have a natural scapular humeral rhythm. So your shoulders are going to naturally shrug and elevate. So here my shoulders are fully elevated. You can see I'm kind of shrugging up toward my ears, taking my shoulders through a full range of motion. I'm going to spread the band and come over my back, stretching the pecs. As I come back overhead, my shoulders are going to naturally depress. Elevate, elevate, elevate. Full elevation of the scapula. Depress, depress, depress. Full depression of the scapula. Again, like 5 reps here, nothing crazy. As I get more warmed up, I can pick up the pace a little bit. You may find one side's a little bit tighter than the other, so I'm having some issues with my right shoulder right now. So I'm just being mindful to try to be even on both sides. I like using the band versus a dowel rod or a PVC pipe because the band's going to have play. So that way if you're really tight, you could really spread it and you can kind of go to a range of motion that you can control. Tighter guys might not be able to touch their butt, but that's the goal, is to kind of come over and back. It's going to help stretch the tissues and also kind of activate the upper back a little bit as well. So that's the band over and back. It's going to help get you in that low bar position for barbell squatting. Okay, so I'm using TRX straps just to kind of warm up my groin a little bit. This is more specific to a wide stance or geared squatter. If you don't have TRX straps, you could also just use a barbell and a power rack, Smith machine, that sort of thing, or just hold onto a pole works out well too. Since we have the straps today, you want to get into your competition stance or slightly wider, and we're going to do what's called a Cossack squat. And we're just going to, it's like a stationary side lunge. So I'm stretching my groin on the left side, coming back to the center. So one of the things that's really important for equipped squatting and wide squatting is opening up the groin area so we can spread the material more and keep our knees in a healthy position as we squat wider and wider. If you are a closer stance squatter, this may not be a drill that's that important, or you might want to just stay a little bit closer and just do something like this, just to have a more of a moderate stretch. Now I'm going to get a little bit wider than my squat stance. I'm going to do some squat pulses, driving my knees out, and again, I'm working on opening up my groin and having my knees track my feet. And I'm just using my arms just for balance here. That feels pretty good, so I'm going to stop there. This is a staple, just to kind of activate the upper back. It's a band pull apart. Some common mistakes here. Not enough tension, doing some sort of like tricep extension deal, and starting the movement with the lower back. So ribs and pelvis are stacked. Just get a moderate amount of tension. Make sure that you're starting wrist, elbow, and shoulder in good alignment. Shoulders stay down. Pull to the nipple line. I'm working on pulling my shoulder blades together. So I'm stretching my chest and activating my upper back. If you ever watched Ed Cohen set up for a squat, you could literally see him wiggle one shoulder blade to the center, wiggle the other shoulder blade, and he gets his scapula really tight, pinned together. It's really cool. I don't think you get anyone, I mean, he is the GOAT for a reason. So watch someone like Ed Cohen and you can see how important that scapular retraction and pulling the shoulder blades not just down, but also inward. It's going to really make a nice shelf for the squat. So the band pull apart's a great way to practice that for squatting and for benching as well. So if I had to pick one drill for pre-squat and pre-deadlift, if I was short on time, it'd be the shin box get up, which I learned first from Steve Maxwell, but I relearned it from Chris Doven and Kabuki Strength. Steve Maxwell is a great resource as well for kettlebell lifting and just general strength training as well, so you can definitely check him out. Shin box get-ups can work on internal and external rotation and hip extension. These are all important things that you need for squatting. A lot of people don't think about internal rotation as well, but that's also going to make sure your knees are healthy, especially if you're a closer stance squatter or a more toe straight ahead squatter. So having the ability to rotate your hips and extend your hips at the same time is a critical skill, especially if you're a wide stance squatter or a sumo deadlifter. This is also serves for me as like a diagnostic tool a little bit. If my shin box feels really good, really comfortable, it's usually going to mean I'm going to get in good positions for the day. So this is probably my favorite prep drill for squatting and sumo deadlifting. So we're going to literally make a box with our shins, 90 about. This hip is in external rotation and this hip is in internal rotation. Now for some people, this may be a stretch in itself. And you might just need to prop your hands here or hang out here. So I'm not perfect. You want to try and get the pelvis grounded and as level as you can. And you might just start by hanging out here for a little bit. Now for level 1, just hang out here. And just do a couple of sets where I just relax, come back to the center. And just do 5 reps per side like that. Level 2, use your hands to balance. So I'm going to walk my hands to the front. And I'm going to keep my hands on the ground and extend my hip while keeping my hands on the ground. I like to use this side hand to help balance myself. That's level 2. Level 3, look, come on, no hands. I'm going to extend with no support this time. So I like to have my hands like I'm praying, or I got my hands out to the side, whatever's comfortable for you. Again, I'm trying to stay grounded here, extend up, and I'm going to make sure I don't crash. So a lot of you guys are going to want to plop. Oh, it's almost like a box squat. It's like the cloud technique. We want to sit into the cloud but not go through the cloud. Hover, extend. Hover, extend. If I want to add some other kind of drills to the shin box, I can. I don't do that too much, but that would be like a more advanced progression. So that's the full kind of get up, where I'm going into a full squat. That's the one I learned from Steve Maxwell. I don't do that one too much. I usually just stay at like the level 3. Now we're going to go through the other side. You might find one hip is tighter than the other. So same thing, we're just going to start at level 1 for people starting out. Level 2. Level 3. This is the level I usually do. Hands out for balance or like you're praying. Level 4. So I'm not perfect at this one. That's for all the powerlifting yogis out there. And again, notice how I'm not crashing, I'm controlling the cloud technique. So now we're going to work on upper back tightness specifically for the squat. We like to use the cue, bend the bar, or do a lat pull down with the bar. So we're literally going to practice that motion. We're going to do this prone. We're going to brace into the floor, squeeze our glutes, and just move our shoulders. We're going to start in a wide position, going into shoulder flexion, and we're going to pull down to a W. We're trying to pinch a piece of paper between our armpits. I'm bracing into the floor, and I want you to think about where your squat grip is. So if you're wider, go wider. If you're closer, stay closer. I can pause in between. Do some reps here, do some reps here. I get to stay and do some pull downs. Whatever's comfortable. But I really like that action of bending the bar. Think about bending the bar and really pulling the lats together and down. So bird dog's a staple stability exercise, but a lot of times it's butchered. It's one of the big three for Stuart McGill, and it's really good for that anti-rotational stability and glute activation and just overall trunk stability. So there's some key points to the bird dog. We want to get on all fours. Wrist, elbow, shoulder alignment, knee and hip alignment. You want to pretend like you have your favorite drink on your back. You don't want to spill the drink. One thing I learned from Dr. John Russian is not necessarily about the legs that are moving. It's more about the legs, the limbs that are not moving. So if I do left arm, right leg, really think about stabilizing, driving the knee down into the floor, clawing and driving that hand into the floor, engaging this lat. So I'm engaging my right lat and extending my right hip. So I'm getting that cross-sectional stability. To start the movement, we're going to stay low to the ground. Now you might want to just start off just here. And just start there. And then you might want to just go out a little bit. Simple thing, savagely well. Come up and out. Just barely drag. Hold. Squeeze the glutes, squeeze the quads, squeeze the core. 5 to 10 second holds. Now I'm going to get my stability through here. I'm going to drag and drag. Okay, so the next exercise we're going to do, this is a staple before you squat, is going to be the dead bug. So we're working on, when it comes to core stability exercises, we want to work on moving the hips independently from the spine. So the dead bug is going to be more specific to the squat, and when we go into the deadlift series, you're going to see we're going to do like a leg lowering drill. So, but basically we're going to have hip flexion with knee flexion. So we're in a 90-90 squat position. So we're going to go through levels 1, 2, and 3 for this, because this is more challenging than people think. So the first, you can actually start here, but I usually start people here. So dorsiflexed, hips 90-90, feet about a basketball distance apart. If you're an equipped lifter, you could certainly go a little bit wider with your width. So you're always set with the brace first, and then we're going to just do a heel tap. This leg is not moving, so I'm activating this hip flexor, and I just want to graze the ground. Progression up from that, like level like 1B, I could do the heel tap from here. So it's more about this leg not moving. Level 2, we're going to extend the lever arm, so we're going to extend the foot. Keeping tension on that opposite leg. Now you go opposites. So I kind of cheated that last one, I'm getting a little tired. So again, if you do these things with intention, that's another common theme. You do these with intent and focus, these exercises can be very challenging, so I recommend, again, 3 to 5 reps, just one set. If I add a hip circle, I'm going to also get some resistance here, or I can just use, so now it's trying to pull me out of position. All right guys, we're going to do some squats with RNT. So RNT is a technique or a term popularized by the physical therapist Gray Cook, but it basically means reactive neuromuscular training. So reactive neuromuscular training is when you add a band or add some sort of resistance that feeds into your body into a compensation. Common fault in the squat, knees knocking in. So the hip circle is a great tool for RNT training because it forces your body into the compensation so you reflexively have to push out of it. So you could feel when there's slack on the hip circle, I know I'm in a bad position, you get that feedback right away. If I'm in a good position, you're going to feel tension on the hip circle. To eliminate knee torque, that twisting force, I always recommend to put the hip circle above the knees. It's personal preference. I also just feel like as an equipped lifter, it's going to be more similar to pushing out against the material. It's going to have higher transfer to that skill as well. So I could certainly just do some air squats here. I could do with a pause, even sometimes double pauses, and just really feel the positions. Again, if my knees come in, I'm going to feel slack, and then I'm going to get that feedback right away. To take it up a whole nother level, these are some drills I like to do before a meet that help ingrain proper technique. Another common fault for the squat is the upper back collapsing, so we're going to add in another layer to the R&T. We're going to add some upper back activation. So I'm going to do a behind the neck pull down. So I'm practicing bending the bar, and I'm practicing rooting my feet and spreading my knees apart. So I'm getting a lot of glute activation, practicing the skill of squatting, getting lat activation, practicing the skill of tensioning my lats and bending the bar, and I'm just patterning the squat. So these are really good drills. When we talk about, think about a basketball player making free throws, they're not always practicing basketball per se, but they're practicing the skill of basketball. And you can do those a lot. So these are drills that you could do, a couple times a week or even every day if you wanted. There's not a consequence. It's not like squatting heavy, but you could practice the skill. You could also do this squats facing a wall, for example, with this drill. So for today, we're going to do. So I'm going to do a behind the neck pull down. So now my lats are tensioned just like a squat, and then I'm going to squat down. So now I'm going to do it with the box. That way I could get a little bit more balance and sit back a little bit more, because again, I'm an equipped lifter. So I'm rooting my feet, breathing and bracing, engaging my lats, sitting back, hold, 3, 2, 1, relax. Rooting my feet, breathing and bracing, tensioning my lats, 3, 2, 1. If I want, I could also just come here and practice my squat position like that. So I'm relaxing my lat, relaxing my hips, engaging my hips. And I want to try to mimic my back angle the best I can. So a lot of times with the box squat, people are going to lean back too far. Make sure you still have that forward torso angle like you would with a bar on your back. Whew, I'm sweating. So I'm about ready to warm up. I'm about ready to finish my warm up. I'm ready to squat. I hope you are too. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, guys. Give this video a like, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Check out the links below if you want to support the program. And yeah, subscribe, like it, share it, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching so much. Hope this video helped you. If you know someone that needs to warm up before they squat, share it to them. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, stay strong, and I'll see you soon.